Hi, everyone. My name is Jon Auerbach.
And I'm J.D.L. Rosell.
Today we've got part two of our Kickstarter chat.
I'm wondering what you think you're going to change for this second campaign, or what you want to do different, or maybe just turn up from your last campaign.
One thing I changed was, so last campaign I got my pre-launch page approved maybe a week or 10 days before the campaign started. And so for those of you who don't know, the pre-launch page, if you haven't heard us trying to send you to that page before, it's basically a landing page that says, hit this button and you get notified when the campaign launches. And you get enough people who get that email, you're going to get a lot of first day backers. And the longer you have that landing page up, theoretically, the more pre-launch followers you're going to get. So last time around, I had maybe a week to 10 days of sending people that page. I can't remember the exact number. I feel like I got 30, if that. And I didn't have, a week is not enough time to get people to go to that page and sign up to be notified. This time around, I got the campaign page approved at the end of May. So I had almost 2 months, and I've tripled, as of right now, I've tripled the number of people that were of my pre-launch followers from the last campaign. I'm hoping, as the time is here, hopefully that has paid dividends, but I'm confident. Another thing I changed was, instead of, I had my plan for stretch goals and we blew through them and I had to come up with them on the fly. I've tried to I'm going to dial back, not what the stretch goals are, but I've figured out what they are, and I'm going to set the the levels of the stretch goal, optimistically hoping that we fund all of them, but I'm not going to be doing kind of a scramble. Let me try to add something, mid-campaign. It worked out okay in the end, but it was a lot of headache, and I love working with artists, but to find artists who will fit your budget, will have availability, and want to work on want to work with you. It really takes, it's a volume play, and so trying to find an artist to do a new stretch goal during the campaign was not the best idea. So I've tried to line all that up ahead of time, so I'm not scrambling during the campaign, and then can focus more on marketing and reaching out to people during the campaign. You've already set your stretch goals for the campaign ahead of time?
They're still kind of in flux. I have some idea of what they are, and kind of the metrics I'd like to hit. But we shall, I can't give away any of those stretch goals, right? You can't spoil the fun.
Yeah, so I think that's the right approach. For mine, I put the ones I had already done. I just put them on the page day one to kind of say, just come back to this campaign and for this book, you never heard of, new people, like, we're gonna get some cool stuff. But I think you have the right idea that you wanna hold back that surprise to do a big reveal as you reach the goal. And also, you also hit on a good point. You don't have to. I wouldn't go in and say, okay, at whatever, $4,000, we're going to unlock this next stretch goal. Like, you need to, it should be in flux depending on, what backers are backing at what level. It's silly to say, okay, we're going to unlock it at this level, but, the margins on a hard copy of the book are obviously much lower than the margins on an ebook. So, or if you have these kind of super fan tiers where it's, paying to be a character, where it's, several $100s, they get the book, and the rest of that is, things you're offering for your time. The cost of the good is low compared to what you're getting. So if you get more of those, you'll have that bigger margin to work with. So I think that's a great idea. Don't set the level until you see how it's going.
That's reassuring. It's mostly just due to indecision, but it's nice that it turns out to be a good plan.
Do you see yourself, from what I've seen from all your pre-launch work, I think this campaign is going to be a success for you. Do you see yourself coming back to the platform for your future launches in this series, or launching a new series?
I really hope to do it again. Yeah, as long as everything is going well, then I definitely plan on it. The plan is to release all the books in this series sort of in advance of their Amazon launches. And kind of, it works in two ways. That then I'll have those books kind of ready to go for a quick Amazon launch, which tends to work there better for their algorithms. So I think hopefully it'll be a win-win situation. And I've really enjoyed Kickstarter so far, so it'd be great to do it again. What about you?
I think, given the type of, at least this current series I'm writing, I think and the pace I'm writing it at, I think it makes the most sense for me to kind of do this like one launch a year on Kickstarter and then do a retail launch afterward. And I mean, it's kind of similar to the traditional publish model, like, traditional published like fantasy books. Most of the time, the authors are coming out with them, once a year, or they're only allowing their authors to release, their books at a once a year clip. And the reason of that is several. If you're doing a large, print run and distributing all those books to all the bookstores that it's going to be in, that takes time. There's marketing windows of holidays and worrying about other books in the catalog, and so they can't just say, okay, Brandon Sanderson, we can release, your 3 Mistborn books in January, February, March. Like, sure, no problem. Like, even for him, I think they wouldn't agree to do that. And I think that's one of the reasons why he did this Kickstarter campaign with these 4 books, because there's no way that Tor would have let him release 4 books in a year, maybe, or maybe unless he said, oh, okay, I'm never going to give you another book again. But if you're having this once a year launch, the Kickstarter helps you build up that anticipation, and you can make it a big deal. Whereas I think, and so for me, that fits well. If I got to the point where I was, doing this full time and writing, 4 books a year, I think I'd have to scale back. I think I could still make it work, but there's you worry a little bit about, audience fatigue in terms of, every launch can't be this huge, enormous launch. So I'm trying to figure out, if I can speed up my writing time, other avenues to launch, maybe work it up to 2 books a year. My other plan is I'm writing a comic series not related to Guild of Tokens, and so that could be like a counterbalance of doing 1 book launch a year and 1 or 2 comic launches a year. Because comics is the good thing about comics is it takes much less time to write an issue of a comic. The bad news is to create a 22-page comic and to do all the art and production is, even before you're printing, is several $1,000s. So you really need that crowdfunding if you're gonna, or credit card debt if you really want to get that out there. So that a Kickstarter works great for indie comics, and similar to kind of what you're thinking. Like, I've seen people, they've funded 5 issues of a comic, and then they have a publisher come to them and say, great, we'll distribute the trade paperback and through the traditional channels, and then they keep launching the single issues on their own and hopefully get the second volume picked up as well. This is a good cycle that both markets work together.
Yeah, the audience fatigue, especially on Kickstarter, since it is such a big event, that is an interesting concern, and one I'm still puzzling through myself. Since I have the next book in this series, it's getting towards the latter stages of ready. I'm like, when do I launch this Kickstarter? How soon are people ready for that next book, especially when it takes maybe a couple months to fulfill the first one?
Yeah, I would definitely keep in mind, I think we could have a whole conversation about fulfillment, but I definitely keep in mind, however long you think it's going to take to fulfill like the physical copies of the books, add more time, especially in this day and age and the current, printing landscape, supply chain landscape. So yeah, you should definitely be thinking about, well, I did the campaign in July, I got the book to my backers in whatever month, you can't look at it, okay, the campaign was in July, I'll run the next campaign in December, because you have to, if they're just getting the book whenever, you need to let people time to read it. And then the other great thing is you could say, the next book is going to be ready in whatever, a month. Let me know what you think. Do you want me to bring it to do a launch? Do you want me to do, a direct launch through like my website or something else? And you get that feedback.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And again, comes back to feedback and communication. You can actually have those.
Yeah, exactly. You mentioned maps and illustrations. Tell us a little bit about what is going into the book. What you're able to do. Tell us more about kind of the fun stuff you're able to do in this Kickstarter launch that maybe would kind of get would not be really feasible on Amazon.
Yeah, for sure. So as you mentioned, I've already commissioned a professional map for this series, which I haven't done before. I've just done them myself, or my wife has done them for past series. So it's really cool to get this nice, and it looks gorgeous. Really pleased with it. So that's one thing. Another thing is interior illustrations. So being able to depict, first of all, the main character, which I think is really, some people don't like seeing the main character, but I think a lot of people do. They really like being able to connect with this person and see a little bit more personality than maybe is on the cover. So that was fun, but also depicting some of these strange creatures that occupy the world. So one of those is the Titan, which, you know, is in the series title. And this one is a giant tortoise, you know, so you kind of seen that maybe before. Hill tortoise. So, you know, it's got this huge hill and trees falling off of its back. And then another one is the shapeshifter, which I'm calling Drivens, kind of after dryads or druids, some combination of those. So yeah, those are some of the fun things. I think a lot of those add-ons, which I'm able to do prints of each of those, which normally, you know, you can't sell that on Amazon. And then as well, as bookmarks. What else? Yeah, I guess some extra short stories. One idea that I think will be cool. I still have to I haven't really told people as much about it at the time of this recording, but it's a flashbacks compilation. So there are flashbacks throughout these books, sort of depicting the protagonist's childhood. And I kind of wanted, since they're sporadic and they take place at different times, they're not necessarily linear, I wanted to collect all these flashbacks, add in a few more, and sort of make a coming of age novella for the protagonist, just in case somebody wanted to read it that way and be like, oh, this is, you know, point A to point C. So that was fun to be able to put together that little collection as well. Just a bonus thing that wouldn't go on Amazon ever.
I really like that idea. So is that going to be a separate add-on or included in a particular tier?
Yeah, it's included in all tiers because starting at ebook. So the idea being, my current audience might be, you know, so the tiers are like $8 for the ebook regularly versus the most expensive ebook I have on Amazon is $6, and that's the final book in a series. So I'm just thinking, what are they getting extra out of this? Why would they want to be, you know, going in on this? So I'm just trying to layer on as much as I can, even from the ebook tier.
I think that's a fantastic idea. I think you hit the nail on the head, and you know, I think one, you're offering something that's, you know, unique and as a value add, and two, you're thinking about your existing audience and making it, you know, giving value to them as well. I think that's great.
Thank you. Yeah. What are some of the fun things you've done or are planning to do?
Let's see. So in the first campaign, it was about kind of I had written these prequel short stories from one of the side characters. I had at the time of the campaign, I'd written three of them, and so I just said, okay, this is a special edition. We put all those in, you know, for people who may not have read them when they bought the original book the first time around. In the first campaign, we unlocked a short story as one of the stretch goals. So that is out, that's finished, and that went to all of the backers of the first campaign in ebook. It hasn't been in print, so that'll be going into the print book at the back, and also in the ebook. In the first campaign, one of the stretch goals was to add chapter header illustrations, and unlock that one. They're fantastic. They're by Tom Parker, who's done similar illustrations for R.J. Barker's
The Bone Ship, maybe?
Yeah, so Tom Parker did these similar header illustrations for R.J. Barker's Bone Ships series, and so this time around, I thought, well, it kind of, you know, I think we would fund it as a stretch goal, but it's not really, you know, it's not really fair to people if we don't. So I said, okay, those are going to be standard. So those are already, you know, factored in, and those will be in the. If we don't fund $1, if we fund $1 over of the level, those will still be in the book. So we kind of upgraded the book this time around, and Tom's been working on those, and I'm really excited to show those off. in my last campaign. In this campaign, I'm doing a bookmark. I think the rest is really built into the stretch goals. Oh, so sorry. One thing I'm doing is as I said, I tried to kind of throw together, extra stretch goals at the end of my first campaign. We hit some of them. I had this crazy idea that we were going to fund, all this additional art on the last 48 hours. It didn't really work out, but I had already booked a slot with one of the artists, and so I just had him create the piece that we would have, funded as a stretch goal. And I've been holding on to that for more than a year, and so that is going to be it's this kind of cool variant cover style illustration. The artist is a comic book artist, and that will be a backer perk for if you back within the first 48 hours at a physical tier, you'll get a print of this illustration. It'll be in the book, kind of in the back in the illustration gallery, but only the people who back in the first 48 hours are going to get a print of it. So that is something that hopefully will kind of drive more, day one, day two backers. And I have some other artwork that I've commissioned that I've revealed that will be part of one of probably the first stretch goal that I love kind of, I love commissioning art and kind of building out making the world more immersive. It's one thing to have, to have an immersive world through your writing, but I think, adding, illustrations, really helps, build that connection with the reader. And you see it with like Brandon Sanderson. If you open like the Way of Kings special edition, there's all this artwork in there. And the other stuff, stay tuned.
That's the thing. You can always add on more.
Yeah.
Maybe at least one, if you want to round it out with this, or if you have anything else. What do you think the future of Kickstarter is, at least for authors? Do you think it's kind of reaching this peak and this oversaturation point where there's just going to be too many projects? Or do you think it's kind of really hitting its stride and this is going to be part of the author ecosystem going forward?
I would say more of the latter. I think you will have a bit of Brandon Sanderson raised $40 million. Let me try to do a Kickstarter. You'll have people who are going to look at that and try to do that. And they're going to run a campaign, depending on how much legwork work they do beforehand. It might be successful, it might be not. They may realize that it is a lot of work to run and fulfill a campaign, and they'll be one and done. So you'll have some of that. But I think that I've really started to see more of an emphasis on bringing more authors to the platform, kind of evangelizing from people who've done Kickstarters. You had Rosell and Monica Leonel did this book on how to do a Kickstarter that Kickstarters for authors that did really well, and they're building a community around that book and getting people. They have a Kickstarter accelerator, and so you're going to see, I think, out of their book and their campaign, there's a community growing, and I think because of that, you're going to have this self-sustaining, community / ecosystem of authors who are going to keep using Kickstarter, and I don't think it's going to be a flash in the pan fad that's going to go away. I think it's going to build, and I mean, I've already seen it this year. There's so many more fiction campaigns, running right now that have run in the past 6 months than were probably in 2021. I think the fiction category is still in its, I'm not going to say infancy, but compared to, comics, I think there's a ways to go, and that's great. And I think it's going to continue to grow.
Yeah, I agree with you. There might be, maybe there will be this slight, peak and then a slight drop when people realize it's not necessarily a get rich quick sort of scheme. But yeah, it fulfills this necessary role, I think, in author publishing or in independent publishing that Amazon's really not. So I can't really see, even direct sales doesn't really replace it because it doesn't have this algorithmic expanding effect that Kickstarter can have on your campaigns. So I think I think it's fulfilling this role, and it seems like it's here to stay, at least in the medium short term.
Yeah, I mean, I've tried to on my own. I've tried to get kind of some of my author friends to consider doing a campaign, and I think it's a lot of the reactions, but it's a lot of work. I don't know if I don't know if I could do that work. And I think, as more and more authors try it and kind of get over that hurdle and start running a campaign and get the hang of it, it becomes less work. I think it was a lot less work to build the campaign page this time around, and I suspect it'll be less work even, the third time around, hopefully. And so once you have people who go through the gauntlet once and come out the other end and have a good experience, they're gonna want to come back. And I think kind of that resistance to doing it is dropping.
Yeah, it's just with any launch, doing the initial legwork, figuring out how you want to approach it. It does seem like it gets much, much easier after that. Yeah, I mean, because that planning, you're literally building from scratch at that point. But after that, you have this scaffolding that you can just slot things in. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to that for the next campaign.
Yeah, definitely. So Josiah, where can people find your campaign?
Yeah, you can search for The Last Ranger on Kickstarter. You can also find on my website links to it. My website is J.D.L. Rosell, ROSELL.com. And it'll be right there on the front page. So yeah, those are the best ways to find them. What about you, John?
You can find my campaign at guildofmagic.com. It'll direct you right to the campaign page, and there'll be, the link to my website is at the bottom of that page, and I don't think you'll remember how to spell my name, so I'm directing everyone to guildofmagic.com. I got the name of that. I registered. I knew the title of that book for a while, and I was like, let me just grab this URL before someone else does. And guildofmagic.com. The campaign is live now, and it will run through Thursday, August 11th.
Fantastic. Well, this has been awesome, John. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Josiah. It's been great. Best of luck in your campaign, and I hope to. I'm looking forward to backing it, and looking forward to seeing what you've got planned for the series.
Likewise, I hope the second one is as successful as the first one, or more so.